Aloha, and welcome to the Joystick Show, a weekly podcast where three friends from Hawaii talk story about pop culture things that bring us joy. Chakos and halos for sticking around. If can, please like and subscribe on any and every podcast platform, also on a YouTube's. A five-star review is greatly appreciated and helps us out a ton. I'm your co-host Drake, and that's Thomas.
What up, what up?
And we are currently missing Scott because he has a job that he's making money on, and so
A
he can't be
job.
with here us today. Put that in a sentence. But
Yeah.
welcome to episode 164.
He sounded like Kevin from The Office,
Oh,
where he like just cuts out all the middle words because he's like, it'll save time.
yeah.
It'll save time.
It
And
makes
yeah,
sense.
kind
It
of, but
makes
in a
sense.
very Kevin way.
Yeah. Oh,
Also,
Kevin.
yeah, later on, as we get into reviews, we had a friend stop by. Austin from A Timeless Day will jump on. So, yeah, that portion will kind of be cut into this episode when we get into reviews and we'll be talking about the Penguin. But for now, this week was jam packed with trailers.
Yeah,
There
dude.
was so many good ones. And the
It's fucking
first
trailer
one,
park.
nice. Like what you
Heyo.
did there. That was good. But the first one I want to start with is a new Marvel one that is awesome. I think
Yeah.
this is gonna like really. I think this really
Yeah.
surprised a lot of people. But it's Thunderbolts with an asterisk.
Yes. Based on the late television show back in the day, Thundercats. Just joking. Um, I watched
Nothing
the
to say.
trailer and I was like, oh, interesting. It's a little bit dark. So some familiar characters. I do love me a Miss Pugh as a Black Widows, and then all of a sudden, all the characters kind of were coming together in a way that almost very similar to like Suicide Squad, but less kind of Suicide Squad-y. And then the dark, ominous tones kind of continued, and then we got Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and then it just crescendoed into like, I want to watch this right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that the same for you? Did you also?
yeah. So like it's a little interesting, I guess, for me because I was able to see it at Hall H at San Diego Comic Con.
Oh,
So the whole
you son of a
cast.
bee.
Yeah,
You
but
son of a
so
bee.
sitting on this knowledge of it and yeah, it just kind of blew me away. I think one of the things I was
Hmm.
most worried about with this trailer was that you have a bunch of heroes who seemingly all have the same powers and you're like how are they going to
Oh, yeah.
make that
Okay.
cool and interesting? But right when we get we start off like to your point with like Florence Pugh. It seems like she's searching for meaning. She goes to her dad, Alexei. He's doing nothing. He's becoming a bum, and she gets put on this mission by Val, I guess. And all of them kind of do, and they end up in this like almost death pit in a sense.
Mm.
They're locked in a room. They end up trying to kill each other. But I was so amazed by how they made the fighting styles look
Yeah.
unique and different.
Blend, yeah.
Yeah, blend, but stand out.
Yeah. Like blend in the sense of they were using them all together, and stand out
Against
in the
each
sense
other.
that they were, yeah, against each other, right? So fight for your meat. That sounds weird when you say it like that. Fight for your meat.
There's a game that is the saying of the game, but
Fight for your meat? Okay.
yes,
All
yeah,
right.
games are weird
Um,
now.
Games are super weird. But in the kind of the idea of the Thunderbolts in general, I think that's one of the bigger things that I'm kind of looking forward to. Obviously, there's other Marvel things coming out, but you've already seen the things. Obviously, you're going to see this when it comes out May 2nd, 2025. Is this
Oh
more
yeah.
exciting or less exciting than other potential movies or movies that are coming out?
So I think based on this trailer, it's jumped way up on my excitement for it.
Oh yeah.
Like, am I more excited for this than Captain America 4? In some ways, like
Mm,
I feel like the action. No, I
mm,
actually not. I was like maybe, but I don't think it is. I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
Captain America's still up there. I think Daredevil is going to be way up there, maybe above Thunderbolts. But
Ooh.
and I think actually at the tippy top though it has to be the Fantastic Four. Just from like
Yeah,
those
yeah,
little
yeah.
snippets I've seen of it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, does it look so cool! But the Thunderbolts it's like unexpectedly awesome, which I feel like I've been saying so much lately, especially with Agatha coming out and with the
Mm,
Penguin dropping. There's just a lot of things where I really didn't feel like I give a shit about them, and now I'm like that looks pretty cool, and I think this is no exception. Like, it was very smart. I heard that the show went under a lot of different rewrites, and putting Florence Pugh as kind of the main actor for this movie, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
is
yeah.
a super smart idea.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's killing it everywhere. Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
and just like everything that she's in, it seems like it's just been exploding. So,
Yeah.
for sure, put her as like the top billing. But then you still have actors that everybody knows and loves and has built deep relationships over the series of movies in Marvel, like
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan. We have the
Hmm.
Winter Soldier, and in a lot of ways, it looks like we got a more evolved Winter Soldier in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it seemed like he dealt with a lot of his trauma. But in this trailer, it looks like he's kind of going back to form. Like it looks like he's attacking the rest of the Thunderbolts and trying to kill them. So this just seems like what is going on there. So that part of
Yeah.
it, I'm like really curious
Mystery.
about.
Yeah. No, it is going to be interesting because essentially this is like to an extent, like an anti-hero slash like kind of gray hero area.
Yeah,
Um, so I, I mean, for lack of a better term, it's not a Suicide Squad, but you could make the
right.
argument that it's giving that kind of vibe. I would love for it to not be Suicide Squad because Suicide Squad is just so suicide. It's so DC, right?
Totally, totally. And like that's like a defined thing, you know? It's like the
Mm,
Suicide Squad is called that because they could be killed on any mission, but they can also be sacrificed. And I
yeah.
don't and like I guess it could feel like these people can too, but it's like it shouldn't be that. And
No.
I don't
Yeah.
necessarily get that. Like I feel like what James Gunn was able to do with the Suicide Squad is so unique and it's so its own thing to yeah, I
Yeah.
guess in a way I'm just agreeing with you. Like this should feel like its own thing and I'm not getting the exact vibes of the Suicide Squad. I'm getting a very Marvel team of, gray individuals like you were saying or villains that are kind of forced to be together whether they want to or not, but they
Yeah.
have to survive or make the mission happen.
Interesting. I like that the idea of kind of seeing more games and movies where survival is kind of the more of the focal point. So, for example, The Last of Us season 2 is coming 2025, no official release date, but it's another one of them survival situations that was a video game that we know and love. What do you think season 2 can not only, I mean, the cast is ballin', but do you think it can
Mm-hmm.
live up to the video game and also follow what was a, wondrous season one?
God, this man, this season looks like it's going to break my heart. Like
Dude,
I'm gonna need therapy after this.
I
Like,
mean, Caitlin Devers, we know she has range,
oh yeah.
and she's gonna be playing a character into which we know we're gonna have tears over. Isabella Merced has
Hmm.
been popping off.
Oh yeah.
And she's sorry, I'm thinking about what she looks like, and that is distracting me from what I'm trying to say, which is she's been popping off, and she's also going to be playing in roles where we're gonna we're gonna fall in love with these characters as well too, and we're gonna have all these really great young actors stepping into this role, and I just think the cast in itself is gonna propel this past any kind of imaginable um, detriment. I think it's just gonna be balls to the wall. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and this trailer just kind of shows what The Last of Us season 1 was about. Like it
Yeah.
has this feeling to it. It has this feeling of like, man, this world is has completely fallen apart. Like, barely anything exists in the way that like society exists. But yet there's like this
Mm.
inkling of hope and you're also like you want them to survive. But yes, like some of the cast to your point, like Caitlin Devers is going to be playing Abby. A lot of people know her for the games. And I'll just throw that there on Front Street. Like I haven't played the games, but I did in preparation for season 1. What I did was I went back and watched all the
Oh
cutscenes.
yeah, did that too. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, and it's dude, that's like a movie. It's
I
like
mean,
it's
yeah,
like
it's
three
good. It's like,
movies.
yeah,
It's
it's
so
good.
great. So I can see myself doing it for this show as well. But again, you got Pedro Pascal coming back. You got Bella
Yeah,
Ramsey, who just absolutely
yeah.
crushed it as Ellie. Gabriel Luna, who I love still to this day.
Hmm, hmm.
He's my favorite on-screen Ghost Rider. He's incredible. But then the trailer starts off with Catherine O'Hara, and she seems like a psychologist for the modern times, like the new times, the
Uh,
new like life, whatever you want to call it, 3.0, 4.0, whatever. And she's basically telling Pedro Joel that, hey, you have to confront the things that you have it, and also you have to like tell the person the thing that you don't want to tell them. And we know
Yeah.
as the audience, right, he didn't tell her that rather than save all of humanity but kill her, he chose to save her and probably doom the rest of humanity from ever having a
Yeah.
cure for this. And that already is like an insane amount of motivation for us to try to see what Joel does and how he navigates,
Ooh.
yeah, his
Yeah,
life. I mean,
that tension's gonna be interesting.
it is so good. I mean, Pedro's crushing it. And this is like, it's a more deeper, serious, grittier character. Like even the Mandalorian is like has his moments, but he's more stoic.
Yeah.
This character isn't necessarily like stoic as much as he is
No.
like just reserved, blocked up, like
Yeah.
a real American cowboy.
America. Yeah, like
Yeah,
he was in the Kingsman, but when it was the Statesman in there too with Channing Tatum's everybody's favorite Gambit.
right. But I mean, exact opposite. He was like in the Statesman, he was like fun loving and
That's
like
true. Yeah,
joy.
he was kind
Yeah,
of a little bit more cowboy, but
yeah,
this one
he was a
he's
cowboy
definitely
though.
more stoic. He's gotten kind of like that hard he's been through some stuff type vibe, but also at the same time like he wears his emotions on the sleeve. You can kind of tell. I mean, and this is probably just because Pedro's just good at acting in general, but like you can really see his emotional range, the characters, without him having to do much dialogue. He's got a very good he's got a very dynamic facial bob.
He does, man. I mean, he just, yeah. Pedro has to be in my top five favorite actors right now.
Oh
I just
wow.
like, I love him in everything he does. He
Yeah.
crushes in everything he does. But yeah, just the way he can like emote without
Yeah.
saying a lot, it's just incredible. But yeah, we're also going to be seeing like an involved Ellie as well, or like a
Oh
more
yeah.
grown
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
Ellie. She's going to
Yeah.
be involved in a relationship. It looks like, and I mean, if you play the game, you know who it is. But
Yeah.
it looks like her and Dina are going to be like moving closer together, which is Isabella Merced. So there's going to be that dynamic in there too. But this kind of like safe place that they've made, I want to say in Wyoming, it's like it seems impenetrable, but as we see as the trailer goes on, like that's
Yeah.
not necessarily going to be the case.
Yeah. Nothing is impenetrable. Penetration always kind of wins, you know?
I don't even want to go there. We'll stay away from that one. Yeah. But we
Uh,
got Jeffrey Wright in here too. I love
oh yeah, yeah,
Jeffrey
yeah.
Wright.
Yeah, I can't go wrong.
He, but interesting thing about him, we see in a scene that he's kind of standing over. Well, I thought it was maybe like a zombie, but it looks like this dude who's just kind of like has been completely stripped down and looks all bloody and like lost their hair, or that maybe he shaved off all of his hair, but he's like handcuffed to the wall. Like that's a really interesting situation. I'm sure people who play the game were probably like screaming right now because they know what it is. But
Mm.
yeah, it's just like they have powerhouse actors and they don't need to be in every episode to really make an impact in the show. And yeah, I feel like Catherine O'Hara is going to be one of those too. Maybe even Abby. I
Yeah,
don't know if she makes it all the way to the end, but just like
Catherine good.
wow, yeah, this is gonna be it's gonna be intense, and this trailer definitely was intense. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, go
Yeah.
for it.
I mean, would you rather watch Last of Us 2 or go into like a theater and watch Ballerinas? What are your thoughts?
I like it. Great transition. I will say quickly though that The Last of Us doesn't have an official release date yet. It comes out
Ooh.
2025, and Thunderbolts we can expect it in May 2nd, 2025. But Ballerina,
Yeah.
I was like, how is this gonna work? I feel like I've said that a lot
Where's
lately.
Keanu?
Yeah, exactly, right? Because it's like, oh, this is John Wick, and if obviously the John Wick movies are awesome. I like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if you've seen four yet. I think I might have only seen clips from four, but
Oh,
the Continental show that was on Peacock, like I tried. Did you try to watch it?
I don't even. We can move on.
Right. It just wasn't good.
Yeah, no,
It
thank you.
wasn't like it had moments where like, oh, this could be interesting, but then it just feels like it's so clearly a TV show,
Yes.
and you just never really like it never like sinks in the same way.
No.
But having Anna De Armas and petite and like
Yeah.
smaller in size and everything,
Yeah.
how is this going to work? But they address it right in the trailer. Like
Yeah.
you're always going to be against people who are bigger than you, who are stronger than you, but you have to figure out a way to still win. And
Yes.
it's like interesting. Like I just love it too because we see, I think it's in John Wick 3, he goes to the ballet and hears about the Russian assassins that, have the ballerinas and everything, and then
Yeah.
kind of tying her in with it. And then her kind of going out on her own journey, I
Yeah.
just think is like a really
It,
cool way to do this.
it's helpful for like the audience who likes John Wick to be like, oh, this is from this. Oh, we get to see a little bit more expounding on it. And it's gonna feature Ana de Armas, who has been recently in a lot of action movies where she's
Mhm.
playing that kind of Tom Cruise role. And so I think the transition is gonna be a little bit easier. Also, Ana de Armas on the eyes is very easy. So I think
Yeah,
the
yeah.
transition from the action, and then you get the action plus beauty, and that type of like technical form. I think it's got a fair chance to float, more
Yeah.
than it would sink. IMO.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I agree. I agree. And she's a pretty decent actor too. Like I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
feel like
She
when
got
she
range.
says things and she like emotes stuff, I believe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, from this trailer, super compelled. You get all of the kind of weird nightlife situations that John Wick gets in, like these crazy like
I know,
underground dungeon
yeah.
clubs.
Like,
And like you get some of that, but then the action, like the way she's kind of working in jujitsu or judo with like gung fu. I don't know what you call it. I
yeah.
know there's like a name for it, but like, the way she's able to work in like her weapons and guns with the martial arts is just, it looks good.
Yeah.
And it feels like, oh yeah, this is John Wick. Like it could happen.
I remember you introduced me to this show, with what's that guy's name? Who is Batman?
Christian Bale,
Yes.
Equilibrium.
Equilibrium. Yeah. You introduced me to that show. I was like, oh, this is pretty badass. There was a dog in that movie too. So
Good
uh
memory.
in the sense of like having these kind of like parallel things, I think when I think about John Wick, I think about Equilibrium, I think about Blade, the first Blade movie as well too, underground scene, super badass person, and I like this archetype in that sense. And we really haven't seen a female in this archetype before. And so I think that's a really
Yeah.
nice transition. I mean, we've definitely seen some badass females.
Yeah, like the
Um,
only one that comes to mind is like Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron.
yeah, Charlize Theron.
That was
Maybe
sick.
what's Angelina Jolie at a point in time, kind of a couple of movies, but I think
G.I.
oh, go ahead.
Jane?
No, no, no. It was Salt. Salt.
Oh, solid. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a little bit more cool because it's off of some things we already know. So we know the action is going to be really good, and we're going to get to see Ana de Armas kind of perform all the things. So
Yeah.
kind
And
of
this
not terrible.
trailer kind of ends with like one of the smartest things you could do, which is just like a tease
Yeah.
to John Wick. Like he's still
Yeah, yeah,
in there, which is something the what is it called? The Continental never could have done because it was a prequel.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean that alone I think is going to draw people in. When I
for
went to
sure.
go watch the trailer on YouTube, it had like almost 1.6 million views or something crazy.
Jeez. Yeah, yeah,
So I think that was genius. And then they're like also using unique things. Her fighting the guy with the flamethrower and then,
yeah.
jumping through the window, but then coming out with the water hose, giving us kind of like a Dragon Ball Z like
Yeah.
last fight was like pretty cool. I know it's
Yeah.
probably it's stupid. I don't even think that would really work in real life, but it was kind
I
of
mean,
cool.
you never know. You
I
never
don't
know.
know. That's why I'm like, I believe it. I was like, seems legit. So I think this, you're right. I think this movie has a chance to flow. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good time.
Oh, I love it. Do you think it's gonna be a better time than seeing your favorite TV therapist? Shrinking 2 is what I'm trying to get at. That was a really terrible segue.
Yeah, they can't all be gold.
Um, yeah,
Uh,
I get.
I
Damn.
I think it was pretty better than I could do.
Yeah,
But
okay.
this looks great. It looks fun. We're getting that cast back together, which was just like, I hate to keep saying like unexpected, but it was. I didn't know the other chick that works in the office. I didn't know the daughter at the time. Obviously knew Harrison Ford. Obviously knew Jason Segel, but I didn't know like the rest of the side cast. And
Yeah.
they kind of found their own personalities and stories within the group. But we're getting like more of that, and they're kind of like adding more elements. I feel like of even Ted Lasso, because
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't know, like Brett Goldstein obviously wrote for Ted Lasso, but he also wrote for this. And it looks like he's even getting a cameo in it, which is pretty cool. So it seems like they're kind of
Nice.
pulling a lot of those, that kind of style, I guess, in a sense, from like Ted Lasso. And like to me, like Ted Lasso progressively, maybe a hot take, got worse and worse as the seasons went on. Like
Oh,
season one to me was the best season. Season two was okay. Season three was like,
yeah.
it was
Season
so
three
all over
was
the
different.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah, where
agreed.
I'm just hoping this keeps a little bit of the consistency, because the only thing for me with shrinking last season was it was kind of a slow build. It took a while for me to kind of get into it. And then once I was in, I'm like, oh, I'm in. I like these characters. I like how this is going. This is cool. This is funny. So now that we kind of get to just jump into where everybody's at post season one, I think this season's gonna jump off and just start blasting off from the jump.
Blasting off. Yeah, no. Anything Bill Lawrence touches, I think, does really well. He was a writer on Boy Meets World. He was a writer
Mm,
on Friends. He created Scrubs. He created Clone High. He created Cougar Town. He created Ted Lasso. Like
yeah.
it's just par for the course, and I like to see this kind of consistency because we love Scrubs growing up,
Yeah.
and to
You
have
could
that
see
style of
all of
show
that in the
again.
show too, but
Yeah, which is
you
what's
also
up,
said
dude.
par for
I
the
love that.
course, and just like, man, we're keeping up with the golf jokes.
Yeah, dude,
Just
golf,
keep
dude.
hacking away with some golf jokes
Yeah, dude. Scott really loves golf. He goes to the links probably every once a week,
every
and then
day. He's
yeah,
yeah,
18 holes, dude. Sometimes
zero
he only does
handicap, just
17.
scratch
Yeah,
golfer.
yeah.
Sick.
He only plays with a 9 iron too, which is impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and he
yeah.
still drives at 340, so I don't know how he
Yeah,
does
I
that.
know. Yeah,
320.
and considering he only plays on his knees, it's pretty tough. But
God, Scott's so good at things.
yeah, Scott's so good, dude, at golf.
So freaking
His
good.
favorite sport. Just let
Yeah.
him know. Um,
So yeah, this show just looks fun. Check it out if you haven't watched it. This is that show though where everyone's like, I need like a new comedy to go into. My number one is always Hacks. I love
duh,
Hacks. I think Hacks is my
duh.
favorite like modern comedy. And
Mm,
then number two is Shrinking. And
yeah,
I just
shrinking.
like I just love this show. So I hope that season two works out as good as season one is, and I'll be a happy camper. But this will be
Yep.
coming out on October 16th,
It's a
next
couple
month,
weeks. Yeah,
in
dude.
just a couple weeks. Yep.
Heyo.
Yeah, and Ballerina also comes out June 6th next year.
Yeah,
So,
next year. A lot of 2025 stuff. They're trying to tease us into it, huh?
God, 2025 is just like going to be an insane year.
Yeah.
There's just going to be so much good stuff. I feel like this year was a good year for for shows. And it was a good
Yeah.
year for video games, but like movies were kind of like, eh. Like there were some
Yeah.
great ones, and there were some kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah, like yeah. Um but on that note, news of some video game things, some comic book things. First and foremost, we got a quick clip of Ghosts of Yotei coming in 2025, which is a sequel to Ghosts of Tsushima. And man, fuck, we've been getting a lot of awesome ass Japanese things going on.
Hmm.
And to see this new video game, I akin it to how the Assassin's Creeds were, where they did it and then it just got better, and then they changed kind of like the tone of it and the genre and the theme, and then it just got better, and they added more things on top of more things, just like how Jedi Survivor did with Cal Kestis, which we'll get to in a second. But I'm so looking forward to this Ghost of Yotei. I'm looking forward to how they're gonna move it creatively, the kind of the things that you didn't necessarily like in the first one, but it was hard to not like things, and then how they build off of that, et cetera, et cetera. So probably more customization, probably more weapons, probably more beautiful landscapes. So do you have high hopes for this, or do you think it's gonna tank like a Madam Web?
Definitely not. And I thought this would be your favorite piece of news today, but I think it's also kind of shocked everybody. Like, I don't think anybody thought Sucker Punch would have a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima
Yeah,
so quickly, but
no.
then also how they were going to take it. Ghost of Yotei seems like it's going to be a couple hundred years in the future.
Yeah,
So Jin Sakai is already gone. He's
yeah,
passed away. But we're probably going to get a little bit of nods, maybe to a legacy that he's left behind. Obviously, if he was the first ghost, right, which was like not a Ronin, but like an honorless samurai who was willing to like kill people from the shadows, if that has now carried over hundreds of years from now. Like he left a massive legacy. The interesting thing about this one too is that obviously Tsushima was kind of an island off the coast of Japan, of
Yeah.
mainland Japan, but this one, Mount Yotei, is actually in Hokkaido. So
Hokkaido.
like, yeah, which is completely different place in Japan. Like they're
Yes.
pretty far
It's not
away.
even. Yeah, they're not even close to each other.
Yeah, but that's why like
Uh,
his legend has spread that far. But also, this is like it's cool. It's like a different time period. I think this is right before like the Edo period, if I'm not mistaken. But um, it's just cool, and I'm curious to see how they do the kind of female
yeah.
character. Like I
Yeah.
think that was obviously like a big issue with, speaking of Assassin's Creed, like as this new one is about to come out, they just pushed it back because it was supposed to come out this year, right? Now it's coming
Uh,
out, I think, February next year. But there was a lot of pushback between, okay, we can either pick between a girl ninja or like a black samurai. Like,
yeah.
granted, they're both from history,
Yes.
but there was a lot of people that were upset by that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see. I haven't really seen a lot of the reception about like the character,
Uh-huh.
which I'm blanking on the name right now, which I think is like Atu or something like that.
Yeah, the Ghost of Yotei, her name is Atsu,
Atsu.
portrayed by Erika Ishii, and
Mm-hmm.
she's a female Ronin. And
Mm-hmm.
so the first, I think, Japanese style video game that we really fell in love with, and I think we can agree, is Tenchu, where we were just ninja assassins with Ayame Rikimaru. And you just run around, you sneak around, you use your grappling hook, you jump down, and it's gory. You're just slicing throats and
Mm-hmm.
murdering human beings that were, body boop boop. And it was very linear, much like Ghost of Tsushima, even though it was open world. But apparently, this one, the devs have been talking about and saying that you're going to have a lot more narrative um, control over the choices compared to Ghost of
Yeah,
Tsushima. So that'll be interesting.
that's pretty
Um,
cool.
to your point about like female, black person, d- uh, like does it matter in general? Like I think people who are nitpicking at those types of things, um, that's completely fine. But we're talking about a fiction. It's a video game. You know what I mean?
Right. And this
So
one is very much based off like fiction,
yeah,
whereas
that's
like
what
the
I'm
Assassin's
saying.
Creed one is saying that it's kind of tied to history. And they're playing
Yeah,
Yasuke, who was like a
who
historical
was a
figure.
black samurai? Yes, and
Right.
then there were female shinobi. So it's like,
Right, right. So I mean, I don't care regardless. I think she looks badass. I think it's
yeah,
super
dude.
cool how they're also distinguishing her from Jin with
Yeah,
the
dude.
double katana. I think that's like a
Oh
pretty
yeah, it's
unique
gonna be
thing.
sick.
Yeah. So like to your point, just kind of adding on what we've already seen. We also see that there's like a musket
Oh
situation
yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah.
We're gonna be able to like fire one gun or one shot, I should say, at a time, kind of situation. But yeah, I'm just so surprised. Was not expecting this game, and I really liked Ghost of Tsushima. It wasn't like my favorite game that came out that year, but I did think
Yeah,
it was beautiful. I did like kind of the history tied to,
yeah.
kind of Japanese culture and how they really tried to like honor that.
Mm.
And yeah, getting to expand on that with this game is like, it's gonna be wild.
Yeah, the one thing that I think, to your point, where they had pushed back the Assassin's Creed game, is it's coming out so quickly. Is it ready? And a lot of games
Right.
haven't really been ready. So, we'll keep it on the back burner, but I think, let's just be we'll I mean it was a great game initially, so if they mess it up, they'll probably just fix it on the back end. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, hopefully they don't. I kind of have faith because that first game was so
that's
incredible.
true.
I
Yeah, it was
I think
real
that they can
good.
land this plane, and yeah, I just kind of love this direction. It looks super badass. There's the connection to wolves as opposed to foxes from the first game. Like, there's a lot of things that are still
Yes.
similar, but yeah, to your point that you started off with, which is like it's similar, it feels the same, it looks the same, but just more. And yeah, I'm so
Yeah,
excited to see what else
must.
the more is with this game.
Mm.
So
Um,
yeah,
no, I was gonna
go.
say, I know
Uh,
that you were a huge fan of lightsabers and Cal
right.
Kestis,
Mhm.
and we were discussing it kind of on the social meds, sort of, kind of.
Hmm.
There was an article that came up that had mentioned that Cal Kestis is going to be in the live action show slash movie within the Mandalorian. As you got through that article, were you more believing it, or were you more like, we'll see?
So funny thing is, I didn't get to read through the article, so I had
Oh,
just saw that
nice.
this was a rumor for a long, long
Oh,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that when I saw that you posted, I was like, oh yeah, like people have been saying this.
Yeah.
But what was your take on it? Like, are they saying he's for sure confirmed for the Mandalorian Grogu, or are they like
So
that's most likely where we'll see him?
I'm thinking I don't know. I obviously I don't know why the article has been coming up. It is kind of suspicious considering yes, it has been in the back burner for a bit, but now it's kind of resurging in popular news now. And so that gives me kind of more of a reason to believe or more faith in the fact that we're going to see Cal Kestis in the show. And it only adds more you're just adding more worth, right? Oh, we're going to see a video game character inside of now Mandalorian, to which did really, really well. So they're doubling up on, they're hedging their bets right here, right? Um, and on top of that, it's just going to make more money. You're going to make more money because now you can seamlessly bring Mandalorian into the video game realm and double up, triple up. So it's a wonderful hedge. It is. I think it's going to be an eagle.
Nice. There you go. Great golf reference. It's just like I was so surprised we didn't get Cal Kestis in
Earlier, sooner.
yeah, in Ahsoka.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's where I
mean,
thought I would
would have been
see him,
perfect. Yeah.
right? Because it's like, okay, we know that he kind of takes place or his story takes place somewhere in between like after A New Hope. He's one of
Yeah.
those Jedis that survives Order 66. And you kind of I think it's even up to like Empire Strikes Back. Like he's around there. He's using the Holocrux to find these different force wielding kids throughout the galaxy.
Oh,
Yeah, we see that in Ahsoka. Those what's the word I'm looking for? They're not like night. I want to call them night marchers, but that's like a
yeah,
Hawaii
that's a
thing.
Hawaii thing. Yeah.
But what are they called? They're kind of they work for
The
the
Night
Sith.
Sister,
Yeah, it's like fifth brother
the
and
Inquisitors. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Inquisitors. Thank you. So
Yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah.
thought you fight an Inquisitor in his game, in Jedi Survivor, or in Fallen Order first, and then in Survivor there's more. So I just thought that would make so much sense,
Yeah.
possibly even with Obi-Wan. And I'm like, is he gonna pop up here? Is he gonna pop up here? The guy has said numerous times he's at Star Wars Celebration. He's like, I will. He's like, I want to play a live action character. Like I can do this. He was
Duh.
in Shameless being a character, which is a live action show.
Yeah, he's a
It's
Maze
like, why
Runner.
not? What's that?
He was in the Maze Runner too. I mean, he
Oh, was he
has. Yeah, I think so.
really?
Unless I think that's a different human being. Let me go.
I know there's the one kid from Love Actually that's in the Maze Runner, but and he was also in Queen's Gambit, but I'm not sure. I don't remember him, but you could be right.
But yeah, to your
Yeah,
point.
but he's been so his character has existed while we've seen these other live action stories. It just seemed weird that we wouldn't bring him in with his popularity. So I think this is a super smart move. He says he wants to do it. People love his character. There's ways to intersect him into these live action shows. Just make it happen. And so yeah, I mean it's like at this point it's like not like it should be more of a surprise to me, but it's not because this should have happened. I feel like a couple times already.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. If it comes to fruition, then I will make the argument that uh, Marvel's kind of getting their stuff back together, right?
Star Wars.
Or Star Wars, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because we were a little bit of flippy floppy a little bit, and
It's been
if they
flippy
can bring this
floppy.
together and it can be great, then let's kind of put our eggs a little bit more in this basket. And they need it. They need
Yeah,
it. So it makes sense if they're doing it for those purposes.
for sure. Yeah, I think this would be an easy win, a easy home run for Star Wars right now. With the Acolyte not performing, with, as good as Andor is, trying to convince somebody to stick through the first couple episodes so that they can get hooked into it is a big ask. Like there's that element to it. Obi-Wan, there was another thing that came out, how they were going to make their own Obi-Wan trilogy. And I was seeing some of it, which was like, oh, he loses his connections to the Force and he tries to train Luke when he's younger and all these things. It's like, that doesn't really fit with the canon. I'm kind of happy they just went with the show. But again, like the show wasn't that great. Like I didn't really love it. There were some cool moments with him and Anakin, but like,
Yeah.
so yeah, Star Wars needs a win. This seems like an easy win. Also, like bring in Sam Witwer. Like everybody knows him as Starkiller. Like that would be a really freaking cool story. Like
Let's go.
drop him in there too. So yeah, I just think like there's certain things with Star Wars that is so easily accessible, and yet I just feel like they're not picking it up. So hopefully they make the smart choice, bring this dude in, make some people happy, and
Yeah.
let's go out there and have fun, kick ass.
Yeah, and to conclude my further thought previously, I was thinking about Will Poulter, who plays
Eyebrows.
the eyebrows, and
That's all I
so
think every time I see
they
it.
look similar. They're both 31. Okay, so
Oh,
yeah,
Will Poulter
Cameron Monaghan, yeah,
yeah, he was in Maze
Guardians of
Runner.
the Galaxy as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. I forgot. And he plays kind of like the dick kid in Maze Runner.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like the jerk, but then
Yeah,
he ends up being like kind of like the heart of gold or something. I
yeah.
think. Yeah. Maze Runner was
They
great.
look,
I like that series. It should have, like, that last movie should have came out a lot sooner, but that guy, whatever Dylan,
yeah,
whatever, broke his back. So
yeah.
good series.
Good
All
series.
right, so next one makes me pretty happy.
Does it?
Yeah, it does actually.
Okay,
There was
all right.
rumors that Josh Brolin was going to play the character, and I
Yep.
love Josh Brolin. Every role that he's played in a comic book movie has felt solid, and it feels like it works.
Yep. I
And I
agree.
wasn't going to even deny this casting, but they were like, he's going to play Green Lantern. Well, that fell through, and now
Yeah.
we have a confirmed casting for Kyle Chandler, who will be
Kyle
playing Hal Jordan.
Chandler. Yep.
And yeah, I'm stoked. I think this is going to be a fantastic choice. Like I mean, he looks like an older Hal Jordan to me.
He
He's
does.
been in so much shit, and
He's been in so many things.
yeah. Let's see. I mean, most famously probably from Friday Night Lights, but he's
Yeah.
been in Mayor of Kingstown, Super 8,
Yeah.
Game Night. I've seen him a lot in Godzilla, in those early like Godzilla movies. He was
Oh,
in
yes, yes,
in
yes.
them a
Yeah. He
lot
was
as
in there too.
well. But Zero Dark 30. I mean, like,
Um,
dude's talented.
yeah, Wolf in
Um,
Wall Street.
yeah, he kind of plays a more generic character, I will say sometimes though. Like his character doesn't always like stand out. But I think that kind of bodes well for him with Hal Jordan, because this show is going to be grounded. It's going to be gritty. They're saying it is True Detective, but with like space magic.
Yeah,
And
which I mean, when you say True Detective, you talking about season one? Cause
I mean, I think this is the vibe of True Detective.
yeah, that's gonna be hard. I mean, I think it's gonna be hard to live up to True Detective because I think that's what we know of Green Lantern already, right? It was Ryan
Mhm.
Reynolds' that didn't really work out so good. We obviously love him from like Justice League, et cetera, et cetera. And then they're bringing it back in a new universe. James Gunn obviously is going to do well in terms of bringing it all together. Um, I guess I'm just not skeptical. Reserved is the word. I'm reserved. Do I think that Kyle Chandler is a good casting? I would say yeah. I mean, 59 years old. Is he going to be able to do some of the things
Wow,
that we're going to
he's
be?
that old, really?
Yeah, he 59.
Wow, they
So
really
that's
are
going to
going
be.
older on some of these
It
castings
makes
lately, though.
sense though because you have these adult actors who have
Hmm.
been in the industry for a long time are gonna take James Gunn's direction a little bit more seriously. Like so, for example, if you notice with all the movies, I can't even remember the director's name, um, like Hateful Eight and
Oh,
um,
God, this
Pulp
is yeah,
Fiction, right? That's crazy to not remember that dude's name.
Quentin
Yeah.
Tarantino.
Like with Tarantino, when you're working with him, you know you're working with Tarantino, right? And
Right.
Tarantino doesn't just pick you up because you don't have talent or you don't know how you can't take his direction, right? So I'm thinking that this is going to be more in lines of that. The other casting that you were talking about too is like there was a potentiality for Chris Pine or Matthew McConaughey. Um,
Yeah, I heard those
b-
names thrown out.
but I do think that this one, Kyle Chandler, is a lot better to your point.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of got
It,
off the point of what I was trying to say earlier, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like who's going to be like leading the show, directing it, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So what's good about this one though is it's going to be done by Chris Mundy, who is going to be the showrunner and the executive producer. He has also been the head writer on series such as Ozarks, and he
Yeah, I
also
love
was
us
a
to
writer
Ozark.
on True Detectives.
Oh, I love us True Detective. Okay, all
So
right.
I think it's gonna be great. Now, can he weave in? I'm not worried about the mystery side of it, or like the murder, or like the partnership of seeing like an older Green Lantern kind of
Yeah,
ushering in a younger Green Lantern. Like I'm not worried about any of that. The part I'm worried about when it comes to this show is that are they going to be able to weave in the magic of the rings, of Oa,
yeah.
of the will, like like are they going to be able to show that in a way that makes sense with a True Detective world? Because like True Detective has those moments where it's eerie and you're like, what's going on? Is this like some magical ghost that's killing people, or is it a real person, right?
Yeah.
There are elements of that, but actually leaning in and saying, no, this is a magic ring that can make whatever you want. And you have to use this in a way that helps you solve this crime. I think that's the part that I'm most curious about. But I mean, just amazing dudes also working on it. Executive producer and co-writer Damon Lindelof. He's also
Yeah.
worked on Watchmen and The Leftovers, so very familiar with like adapting a comic book show. And then Tom King, who has worked on like Miracle Mile, but also like Supergirl, and has written his own comic books too. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how this gets done. But I think this is
Yeah.
great casting. He seems
Agree.
confident. He looks
Hmm.
like the character. Yeah, if they can just kind of weave in just the lore of Green Lantern 2 in this satisfying way that works with the mystery
Yeah.
element, man, this is going to be a good ride.
It's gonna be yes. I'm gonna remain optimistic about it just because I would love DC. I would love to see DC flourish. I think they deserve it. I love their characters as well too. I was looking at Kyle Chandler's biography. He has a child named Sydney Chandler, and they're gonna this person is going to be on a show on FX called Alien Earth. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
It's a television series written directed by Noah Hawley, based on the Aliens franchise, and it'll serve as a prequel and will be set 3 decades before the events of the 1979 film Alien.
Wow. Okay.
So that's kind of an interesting thing I haven't heard about, but I'm learning about it right now.
Very cool. Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
didn't know
sorry.
about that either.
Yeah, sorry.
Question for you though. Okay, because the other side to this Green Lantern show is
Yeah,
that they're gonna have to find a John Stewart who
yeah,
it has to be a younger black male.
yeah.
Who do you have any casting choices in mind
Fuck.
that you'd want
With
to see as a young John Stewart?
are shit. Are
It's
we
like
jet?
some. Yeah, go for it.
I was saying like, are we going? Because John Stewart to me has like that chisel jaw. He has that Idris Elba look to me. But so I'm thinking younger,
Hmm.
maybe a little bit more wiry Idris Elba looking individual. Because I want it to look like John Stewart, right? But then you're also comparing like a freaking cartoon to
Yeah, some of the
a real
people that
human
they've
being.
thrown out for the role, John
Yeah.
Boyega is one of them.
Okay, yeah, I could get
Yeah.
behind that.
I don't know about this one. Like, I don't necessarily see John Stewart, but he's an insane actor, incredible actor. Daniel
Yeah, Jonathan Majors.
Kaluuya.
Oh, yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah. Jonathan Majors in another life would have crushed it as
That's what I'm
John
saying.
Stewart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude.
He would have crushed it.
Okay, yeah, I'm down with that. Yeah,
There's like this new actor that came out. He was in this show called Rebel Ridge. And everyone's like, make him John Stewart. And I'm kind of on board with that. I'm kind of blanking on his
oh,
name,
yeah,
but
yeah, 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 yeah. I see. No, oh, you know who would be good? The guy from Rings of Power. Um,
oh, I
the
think that dude's Puerto
the
Rican.
the solo elf. Oh, he's Puerto Rican?
I think so. I mean, he's like probably black Puerto
Like
Rican, but like
Black Rican?
probably.
I'm looking at the Rebel Ridge guy, and I can see it from this side prof. You know
Mm-hmm.
who would have been good back in the day
Oh,
for Jonathan Stewart would have been Michael Jai White.
Yeah,
Played
back in the
Spawn,
day.
right? Back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, he would have
But
been real
like,
good.
oh man, he would have been dope. I know. Yeah, so there's so much they can do with Green Lanterns. I don't know how I
Mm.
feel about Nathan Fillion being Guy Gardner. Like, I'm not stoked on that. But I guess I can
Who's
kind of see it.
who's your Kyle Rayner though? That's your favorite Lantern.
Kyle Rayner, that's a good one, man. That one is, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't even thought about that. Dang, put me on the spot.
Yeah, dude.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to think about it.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Think
because
about it. That's like why.
I'm pretty sure Kyle Rayner is like half Latino.
Yeah,
I gotta look it up. But yeah, so you probably have to have some type of like Latino in there. But like
yeah.
my gut instinct was kind of just like the kid from Outer Banks.
Oh, an Australian.
Is he Australian?
I want to say Outer Banks is Australian entirely, but I don't know. That's just me.
Well, the Outer Banks show that's on Netflix is like North Carolina or South
Oh, is it
Carolina.
North Carolina now? Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What am I
Anyway.
watching then, huh? I'm watching the Outer Banks. You're
Yeah,
watching Outer Banks.
and the Dykes, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Outer Banks. Oh, you're talking about Chase Stokes?
I think so. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. I have to like think about it a little bit more
yeah.
because Kyle Rayner by far my favorite Green
Yeah,
Lantern.
dude. I
Love the Green
mean,
Lanterns, my favorite DC character. Just the power set, just some of like the crazy stories, Darkest Night, all that stuff has been
yeah,
incredible.
dude. Can't tell
So
by your
yeah,
hat, so
yeah, right, right. Yeah, I'm seriously, I bought this hat waiting for next year because we're getting Green Lanterns finally on
yeah.
screen and hopefully done in such an amazing way. Like honestly, I don't feel like the Ryan Reynolds movie is as bad as everyone makes it out to be,
It's not. It's not.
but it's not good.
No,
And I think Green Lantern deserves to have like a good movie and like a
for
good
sure.
story or a good
Yeah.
show. And I'm happy to see like he's coming to the forefront again with the DCU. So,
I
oh, this is gonna be exciting.
I would appreciate that message too, like having the will, greater good, bigger than yourself. Like I think that's a really good message as well too that we need to be seeing.
Yeah, hear that.
Um,
All right, Batman finally got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, sticking with DC. Yeah, so it looked like from what I saw,
I go Lee
Jim
DC.
Lee, duh, idiot,
Okay, there you go.
Jim Lee,
Jim, all right. Hard
absolute
name.
legend in the comics. He was there, his wife was there. They had like a character who was, or a guy dressed up as a Batman. I don't remember which comic it was from, if it was like Year One or like The Long Halloween or something like that.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, how do you feel about it? Like now that we've gotten it, is it weird? And I've also heard some other things online where I thought it was kind of weird, but after hearing some other people's arguments, I'm thinking maybe it's not.
Okay. I only think it's weird because they could have made it a spectacle that could have drawn in more people. And it could have been larger and if they didn't want to or whatever. Just because Batman's such like a across the board iconic character. It's not like it's one person who's acted in a few movies that you saw and you liked. This is like a person who's lived in multiple people's lives across the world for like decades.
Right.
And to have, some original writers there or, some individuals who have close ties with Batman there versus like the people who played Batman, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it just could have been a bigger spectacle to me, and I guess I would have wanted that as a Batman fan. But what were you hearing on the news about why would it make it less or more cool, I should say?
Yeah, I don't know about less or more cool, but I was like, man, Batman, that seems kind of interesting, right? It's weird. We kind of talked about it last week, but I don't know if this is true. But someone
Uh-oh.
has said that Shrek has one, Mickey
The
Mouse
word?
also has one, and The
Oh,
Simpsons have one as well.
okay. I mean, what's the criteria to get on here? Because there's been like two Simpson movies. Mickey Mouse has been in one
Simpsons has been
movie,
on TV for
Fantasia.
like 30 something years. Mickey
That's true.
Mouse. You
I
know,
mean, it's Mickey Mouse.
out of all of them, the weirdest one to me is Shrek. Because Shrek's the newest one.
I get, I, but my wife, like your wife as well too, likes to
Oh,
have
loves it.
movies
Hmm.
that, oh, let's just put this on to have it in the background. For my wife,
Hmm.
it's Mulan and Shrek. So
Ah,
you have these things where it's like those are just go-to cult classic movies, and it's understandable. I mean, the IP has kind of lasted the test of time, and also syndication as well too. People still love it. Shrek makes sense to me. I think Batman makes the most sense out of all of those, just because with
Right.
its depth and how much it's given to Hollywood. Whereas Shrek was a very short amount of time. Mickey Mouse, I mean, and The Simpsons, yes, they've always been there, but in terms of like Hollywood movies,
Hmm.
I would argue maybe a little bit less than. But who am
Yeah.
I?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It makes a ton of sense to me too, and pretty cool. Pretty cool we got there. I wonder what character Marvel will get first on there. I'm assuming
Freaking Iron Man, dog.
Spider-Man.
Oh,
Do
Spider-Man?
you think
Okay.
Iron Man makes
I
kind of sense for Marvel Studios, but Spider-Man as an individual character has probably made
uh
the most money for
yeah.
Marvel.
Yeah. Okay. That I mean, that'd be cool too if they like somehow like had some dude swing in.
Right, into like the handprints.
Yeah, into the handprints and like do the fucking the landing.
The super Aladdin. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
dude.
awesome.
That'd be so sick.
So, all right, that's it for the news tonight. Yeah, kind of just some crazy stuff. We'll quickly, right now, I'm going to be putting in the Penguin premiere that we had our friend Austin jump in on and discuss.
Chee.
So, you'll be hearing that right here.
And for today's episode 164, Scott had some things and business yet to take care of, but we have Austin of A Timeless Day. He's going to be stepping in and checking us out. Austin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Austin with A Timeless Day and of Beacon as well. And yeah, I run around town. I host events for a living. We're currently launching our Volkswagen bus tour.
Ooh.
And
Yep.
then we also do bonfires and special events all around town. It's a little
Yeah,
bit of everything. And
absolutely.
I feel like I'm never stopping. It just never stops. You're 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 currently featured at a destination that is proof that I'm never stopping, as
There you
I'm
go.
currently at my
Yeah,
other job.
I know.
But I'm happy to be on. I'm happy to be on. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, we're
Thank you
happy
so
to
much
have
for
you,
having
man.
on.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we've intersected in so many different areas around San Diego, and you're a big movie buff, and just shows in general too. We always have like such good conversations about it. So thanks for joining us. I know you're gonna probably have to dip out in a little bit, but let's just jump right into the premiere of the Penguin because it was a surprising definitely a surprising hit. Dropped on a Thursday. The rest of the episodes are going to come out on Sunday. And yeah, Austin, why don't you take it away on just kind of your general thoughts about the show without going into like a ton of detail?
I think first off, and I think it's been obvious for a lot of people because I've been seeing it a lot in the reviews, is people are calling it the Sopranos of the Gotham verse.
Yeah,
Oh.
It's
yeah,
um and his appearance, he looks exactly like James Gandolfini. It's insane to me.
right.
And I
I
love
agree.
how they even make like the disfigurements on his face to make him look like a penguin. Just the way it's like he has that sharp nose, and then
Mhm.
even the way that they work in his gait as well, the way that like his
Mhm.
injury plays into the way he walks as well is really interesting.
Dude, yeah, well said. I think, yeah, I was at Hall H for the Penguin panel, and they were talking about it, and like the makeup guy, like the prosthetics dude, was saying that scar that goes across his face is meant to make it look like a beak, and dang, it's just really
Mm.
well done. But you're right, it's just about mob bosses putting hits out on people, drugs getting moved around, money getting moved around, and again, though, it's just like so surprising. It's been so dramatic. And I knew I liked Colin Farrell in the Batman movie as the Penguin, but man, I didn't think he would be able to carry a whole show. And I feel like I've been proven wrong. Like this, it's been pretty crazy. So, what was some of the things that you kind of picked out from the premiere? Like, we can kind of go through it just like beat by beat in the episode, which is, it's kind of picking up in the aftermath of the Batman. The city's flooded, and he's kind of like breaking into Carmine's or Falcone's, I don't know, base, breaking into the vault, and the sun catches him. And I feel like that really just kicks off the whole adventure.
I love that was a great surprise, actually. That was a shot. Are we allowed to do spoilers on the show?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Go for it.
Absolutely. Now,
We're full
definitely.
spoilers.
Spoiler alert. Yep. Take it away.
Yeah, I just I kind of I was expecting it because that is a known actor. He's in the Marvelous Miss Maisel show, so I was
Yeah.
expecting him to be featured throughout. So it's like that was a great kind of like bait and switch where you think, okay, this is going to be one of these guys that it's kind of a classic cliche of mob movies where he's the spoiled son of the
Mhm.
mob boss and he wants to take over the city, and he's kind of has he's got his own issues, and we're like, oh, this is going to be one of these annoying characters. They're probably going to draw this out, and then
Yeah.
no, he offs him almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was a complete and total shock. Dre, correct me. Have you been able to watch some of it too? I kind of hear about it.
I've been able to hear about it. I was looking at the box office numbers just the other day, and kind of checking on what the other pop culture outlets have been saying about it, and there's been nothing but glorious reviews.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, show on Max, and it's one of those things that's going to come out weekly. But again, they dropped it on Thursday. Now it's here, and from now on, it's going to be on a Sunday. But to your point, Austin, you're right, because I was like, man, I know this guy from Marvelous Maisel. I've seen him in some other things. He's like usually kind of a more funny character, and just the fact that he's kind of an addict, and he knows that his dad's gone, and he's kind of in the power play now. Getting him taken out right away, and then Oz even kind of playing up to him by calling him boss. I
Oh, I
thought that was
love that.
that was just smart.
Oh,
That was just really well done. Where he was like, and he even says later on, right? Like he's like, I make myself small to make these other people feel big, and then that's how I kind of operate. And I love that we kind of get to see it in that moment. But just the fact that he then laughs at him, talking about like his hero, his childhood hero, who would like give money
oh,
to the
the
OG
OG
gang.
gangster.
Totally. Yeah, the guy who like knew everybody and would pay favors and stuff. And then for him to then go and just off him right after that because he laughs at him was like, damn, this show is
Oh, I
just
love
starting.
that.
Yeah, you're so right though. It really was like, holy shit, where are we going with this? So, dude, that was a fantastic way to start off the episode. He obviously has to figure out what to do with the body, pushes it downstairs.
Oh, I
And
love
as
that. Yeah.
yeah, as he comes down, he goes to his car. The plum Maserati, that is
Ooh.
like, I feel like a focal point in this episode. Some kid is like trying to steal the rims off his ride. And that kind of like leads into this, his kind of sidekick from there. Yeah, how did you feel about
Yeah.
like that relationship for the whole premiere?
I'm kind of mixed a little bit. I'm a bit mixed, and I don't know why. I think it's because the actor, it's like you have this acting like behemoth of like Colin Farrell, and then you have this actor that kind of feels like he's on the CW.
Oh.
So,
Oh, okay.
so, so I was like partially feeling like, okay, am I watching Gotham from the CW? Oh no, it was on Fox. Am I watching Gotham from Fox?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
watching this upper echelon like Matt Reeves, like where you have that what's her name, Christina Miliani? Is that her
Yeah,
name?
Milady.
Hmm.
Yeah, playing the Hangman, who's like this
Hmm.
extremely deranged character, and then you have this kid who I don't know, he just doesn't match the gravity of a lot of what's going on to me.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. He I dug it because when I went back and watched some of the interviews, I'm
He's the
like he doesn't
humanizing character. Yeah.
totally, but also he doesn't like stutter, and that stutter is what kind of draws in the penguin.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
So like I
Forgot
know I
about
kind of
that.
forgot about that when I was first watching it, but then as I rewatched it, I was like, dang, maybe because he has that kind of impediment. And we see later on that Oz, he obviously has like the limp walk and like the messed up foot. Maybe that's the thing that kind of like brings him in. He's like, oh, this kid's like
Yeah,
me. So, but
right.
I do hear you. He's like, he's not given a lot in this episode.
I think I just want more personality. I think it's because you have him like chewing the scenery, and then you're kind of like, I'm expecting more from the other actor, like to match
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not there. And then you have all these characters that are so larger than life, and then this other character that it feels. And I saw that he was on the show The Runaways, which
Hmm.
I never saw. Marvel's Runaways.
Oh, is that what
Hmm.
he's from? Okay. He looked familiar. That's right. The
And
run.
it felt very YA to me at some points.
Yeah, yeah. I could
So I
see
was like,
that.
okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. He was on that show.
Right.
Um, but yeah, overall, I was really impressed with it, and I did see a lot of the similarities. I mean, if you've ever seen The Sopranos, his
Hmm.
mom is very similar to his mom from The Sopranos.
Dude, yeah. She's just like a
Uh,
little off her rocker, but also like just kind of hardcore, like he is a little bit.
I
He,
loved that scene where she was like pounding on his chest saying, "You're a bull of a man," like when she's hyping him up. I
yeah.
loved that scene.
Oh, it was
Really
so
loved that
good.
scene.
Yeah, and I think that was another great scene too, showing how for some reason, the Penguin has all these different henchmen. We later on see that there's that drop facility, which is like the in-universe drugs that everybody does. It like literally you see it in the Batman, they're like all dropping it in their eye. But now because of how it's flooded, it's all contaminated. He's like, just sell it. The drop heads won't care anyway. But then but then also to bring now Victor, the young kid, to go meet his mom, you're like, wow, he probably never lets anybody get this close to
Oh,
him.
right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I dug that. He also has like the station wagon with like the
Oh, I
24
love that
inch
too.
rims on it. That like it's
What
it's
was
like
playing on the radio? There was something playing
uh
on the radio there.
right when they jump in, it's Dolly Parton's 9 to 5.
That's what it was, right?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
working nine
And
to
that kid
five.
just looks, he has a slight smirk underneath it, which I did appreciate that. I kind of liked that little, like, oh man, this guy. But, and also just like, man, Oz is like a weird dude in a sense, like he'll slam somebody's head in a door, but also listen to Dolly Parton to like get
And
pumped
wants
up.
a suicide and get a suicide from the slushy from the
Yeah,
convenience
yeah,
store.
yeah.
You know?
Right. Which is another great way that this episode ends. It kind of shows their relationship. So you're right. Like, I'm not sold, I guess, on this actor, Renzi Feliz, who plays Victor yet, but like, he gets some really good moments with Oz.
Yeah, I do. I see what they're building. I think this is going to be like Oz's humanity, and I feel like it's going to be a way to kind of test his character as it goes along because
Hmm.
he's rooted in like wanting to be. It's like that the gangster with a heart of gold or like with a code kind of situation that wants to be
Yeah.
respected by the community, which
Like
I've always had a
Goodfellas.
soft spot. I've
You ever
always had
watch
a soft
Goodfellas?
spot. Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
always had a soft spot for characters like that.
Oh,
So
totally.
so I love that. It does feel like a TV show at some points, which is hard to like with the
Mm.
budgeting constraints. You can see the budgeting constraints
Interesting. Okay. I
at
do
some
I kind
points.
of agree. Yeah, like I do kind of agree with you. Like it feels like the Batman, like the movie we got from Matt Reeves, but you're right. Sometimes it does feel like, oh, you're just put in this room so that it saves on budget.
Yeah, but it doesn't take away from it, and it makes me hungry for like a full TV universe of Matt Reeves stuff.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
I wish this wasn't the only one. I know they were going to do like this Arkham horror at they were going to do a show set in Arkham Asylum, but it was going to be a horror television show and it got canceled.
Oh,
I
Hmm.
was like, oh, if only that was happening.
no, that would have
You know
been
what I
Yeah.
mean?
sick.
But you're right. But I also think, man, if Matt Reeves can make the Penguin interesting and make it this good for an episode, like what other characters can he do, and how, like, what does this mean for the Batman too? Like I liked it. How did you both of you feel about the Batman with Robert Pattinson?
I thought it was great. I actually really liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it because it's tough, you know. How it's a character that's done so much. The same thing like with James Bond, and you have to separate from Christopher Nolan, right?
Hmm.
You can't do anything close to that.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of Batfleck, and then it felt it's like this character that's been done so much, but it felt like a complete reinvention in a way that was interesting.
Right.
Mm.
So I don't know. It was one of the most original takes on Batman I've ever seen personally.
Nice.
Um, like um, uh, visually stunning. The soundtrack, it was much darker. It just felt like a
That
David Fincher
score.
movie. It was like
Yeah.
David Fincher's Batman
Right.
when I
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah, you're right. It's intense. Yeah. What did you think, Drake?
No,
Just to like to see if some of these themes kind of match the show.
uh, it you can definitely see some overlap in terms of kind of how just from the visuals that they're kind of matchy matchy. In terms of like Robert Pattinson being Batman, it was definitely tough at first. I mean, kind of an easy sell. Robert Pattinson obviously a vampire, so of course he's gonna make a great Batman. But I echo what Austin is discussing in the sense that it was very refreshing, even though it has been done a lot. It's like it was something that was new and inventive, and it gave us kind of actors that were able to really carry these characters based off of their acting skill and not necessarily the back of Batman or the Penguin. And one of the more interesting things to think about as well too is how there's a lot of reinvention where Penguin is a standalone show, which I never thought there would be ever a standalone Penguin live action show.
Right?
And then you're getting
So weird.
Joker, his rendition of Joker, and then Harley Quinn's going to be coming in as well too, and that's going to be super interesting. So now we have all these very good one-off character based within the DC realm within Batman, and I'm wondering how is it going to all live by itself? How is it all going to come together? It's a good time for Batman fans, I want to say.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think it's really cool how they've kind of merged some of this. We also have just lost Austin. So, yeah, we'll have fun with that, editor. But yeah, I just am so surprised how this works. And again, Austin was very right that it's being compared to every like mobster show. And
Yeah.
whether you like really like it or not, whether you're a fan of Sopranos or not, or if you've seen it or not, there's something so compelling about this character that he's created. He's very unique, and the actor is gone. Like there's
Fuck.
no in my mind, Colin Farrell isn't there. In fact, I'm like trying to look for something that makes me think Colin Farrell, and I just don't see it. He's just this character.
He's
He's
done so good. I mean, his transformation into the character, like you just said, is like amazing. I remember
Mhm.
I was watching this little short skit where I forget what that guy's name, and he's so good. He was in do you remember that movie, The Fifth Element?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You remember
Gary
the
Oldman.
you remember the yeah, Gary Oldman. He was like walking towards Colin Black, and Colin was like, you're gonna make me like shy because Gary Oldman, like I look up to you as an actor, and Gary
Mm.
Oldman essentially gave Colin Farrell a compliment, and the whole situation was just so genuine and wholesome. And the fact that that dude in that genuine moment, you can see him become this character. You have to put Colin, I think, in one of the top. You got to put him top 20 at least in terms of actors and range and ability, because he's proving it here with Penguin, I
Well,
think.
what's crazy, yeah, you're right. What's crazy is I think this is one of those roles where it's like, yeah, you do have to put him in the top 20. And it's coming from, again, the Penguin.
I
And
know.
yeah, it's just so surprising. So there's another thing I kind of want to move on to, which is like the way the rest of this cast is filling out. There's some
Mm.
people you definitely recognize, even if you don't know their names. But we're getting Kristen Milotti. She was actually in The Sopranos back in the day, which I didn't realize. I knew her
Oh,
as Ted Mosby's
Tez,
wife.
yeah.
Right. So I was like, there's no way she's going to be able to maybe have that like serious attitude, because I think the last thing I saw her in before this was Palm Springs with Andy
Oh,
Samberg.
oh yeah, yeah. That was a good show, dude.
It was
That was a
great,
good
but it wasn't
movie.
like
Yeah.
serious. She was still
Yeah, yeah,
funny-ish, you
yeah.
know? So, but in this show, man, she is like scary. She's menacing. She feels psychotic.
Mm.
It's really cool how she's also, it feels like this is an elevation in her acting too. And she's doing
Oh,
such a good job. But as we were talking about earlier, the guy Michael Zegan, who was from Marvelous Maisel, he actually plays Alberto Falcone. We saw in the Batman that Falcone gets murdered by the Riddler. Well, it's now his kids. The Penguin takes out Alberto right away, and then Sophia is let out of Arkham because she's rehabilitated. Well, that was hard to say, and is just so creepy and menacing. And it's like
ooh.
Arkham did some shit to her, on top of like how crazy she probably was before.
Ooh, that's brutal. Arkham does do that to you. I know Scott's been there at one point in time. That's one of his favorite things he likes to talk about.
That's great. Yeah, he loves
Um,
Arkham. Yeah,
and he loves Arkham. He was
he
there.
goes takes
Um,
yearly visits just to
yeah,
like talk to the inmates. So
yeah. He'll
yeah,
tell you
yeah.
all about it next time he comes on.
Man, that joke, we can never let that joke die.
Yeah, we're never gonna let that die.
No, never. The rest of the cast, though, is filled out by some awesome people. We have Clancy Brown. He was
Oh,
obviously in, what is the other prison movie that I'm thinking of? Shawshank Redemption. He
oh
was
yes,
in
yes,
that.
yes.
He's been in so many different things. He's so iconic. But he's playing Salvatore, another very much another character very much tied to the Batman mythos, who
Mm,
was one of those old school mobsters that everybody
yeah.
knew about, and it's kind of interweaved in a bunch of different Batman stories throughout history. But we also get Michael Kelly, who you've seen him in a bunch of stuff too. I think he was even in The Dark Knight, if I'm not no, he was in Superman. He was in the Man of
Oh,
Steel with Henry
yeah,
Cavill,
yeah,
playing a
yeah, yeah.
completely different role, but he's a part of the Falcone family. And yeah, it just kind of like it's not like not everybody's a superstar, but there's a lot of people you like recognize. And you're like, okay, and they're just doing a really good job of kind of filling out the side cast, I feel like.
Well, that's kind of that's kudos to the casting in general. Do you think that's part of like is because James Gunn's still technically like DC, but this IP is being directed by Matt Reeves. Do you think this is kind of the general plan, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. So this was and is considered the first kind of DC Studios productions or DCU
Mhm.
productions, because right before it started filming, James Gunn and Safran came in there, and basically we're talking about just like little tweaks that they could make to make the show better, which is
Yeah.
really interesting, because it's like it seemed like this was probably really far along, and then they were kind of like, hey, but hey, from whatever they did, it seems like it's working. Obviously, this is considered like an Elseworld property from like their mainline DCU that we're going to be seeing in Superman Legacy, and then with Creature Commandos at the end of the year. But yeah, like this just feels so gritty and raw,
Mm.
and the way that people get killed is it's just brutal. There's nothing
Brutal.
elegant about it. It makes you feel
Yeah.
just kind of icky in some ways, like it's just not a good feeling. And yeah, I just think that this was a really really strong episode, and it's just the character interactions. Like there is action in this, more action than I thought there would be, but that's not actually what's driving it. What's driving it is these intense character interactions, and there's this sense of like Oz, even though he's not a good guy, he's
Mm.
kind of painted in this way that he's a sympathetic villain, but you also are you're kind of worried about him. You're kind of worried that he's gonna get busted or that he's gonna get murdered, or
Oh,
he
interesting.
feels vulnerable, and like
Yeah.
everybody, so to speak, kind of feels vulnerable. So I
Like
think
a uncut gem situation?
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
It kind of, exactly. I think that's a great comparison. There's like a little bit of this uncut gems tension to it. And I think that really is strong. It's a strong choice for this. And it just really makes you feel like any character can be offed at any time. And I don't know, it just adds like a different element to this world. So I appreciate that they were able to kind of maintain this for, yeah, for the show.
No,
Hey, we
Is
got
are you
Austin
talking?
back.
Are you talking about Penguin still?
We are still talking about Penguin. We didn't want to close it out before you head out, but yeah. Any other thoughts? Any other scenes you kind of want to highlight from this first premiere episode?
I like your thought. I like you saying calling it comparing it to Uncut Gems.
Dude, that was all Drake. I can't take credit for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but final thoughts. Final thoughts. I'm curious what they're gonna do with the Hangman character. This is a character that I feel like I don't know. I guess they used her in the Gotham television show. I don't know if she's ever appeared in the animated series.
Not sure, but big character in the comics. Like she's
That
a
yeah,
big character from there. Yeah, and like had this whole history. Obviously, she's a Falcone, and so Falcone always has this like deep ties to Batman in the comics. But you're right. Like in the comics, she tries to murder somebody and leaves like all these clues that she, you know, is trying to murder. Wait, I think I'm mixing up two different things. But anyways, she gets paralyzed. She has brain damage. Everybody thinks she's paralyzed. But as this is going around, someone is
really.
murdering. Yeah, murdering all these people in the city, and is leaving clues, literally like a hangman clue with some of the letters filled out.
Oh, that's where it
And
comes from. Okay,
yes. And
okay.
so as the book goes on, you find out she actually wasn't paralyzed. She was pretending to be paralyzed, and she was actually the one that was going around killing everybody. So Kristen Milotti is not, she's just not the size of this character from the books, cuz like in the books this chick is like 6'8" and just like hulking.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. But I
But
think that they
I
could play with that like mystery murder situation with her that we also saw from like the Riddler and the Batman.
I do like that they're keeping her kind of though that size because you doubt her power, not doubt her power, but like you think someone that's smaller couldn't be as intimidating
Right.
and be capable of that. And I think that's kind of what they're playing into is their characters. Like you see the Penguin, um, you see Oz and the way that like he's trying to trick her, and she's thinking that she's naive enough to fall for it.
Right.
And then you get to the torture sequence, which was brutal to watch.
That was
And
that was a unique torture sequence too. I've never seen anybody get tortured in that way, like under the armpit with barbed wire. I was like, that's pretty
Ooh.
wild. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's tickly and it hurts.
and then I luckily it was distracting enough that I was thinking like, oh my gosh, the fat suit is so realistic. It's
Dude,
insane.
Mm.
he goes full naked in this episode, Drake, and it's like,
Oh.
but it looks like his body, like it looks like the penguin body,
Oh.
and I'm pretty sure. Colin Farrell wasn't just eating like Whoppers and like Big
Nah.
Macs and Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? Like it was like a full suit he put on, and it looks pretty real, right? Like, oh man, they just do such a good job with that. But yeah, then they kind of torture him with this like barbed wire under his armpit, and you see like the blood coming out. It's wild. Yeah, and I just haven't seen a torture scene like that before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
So
anyway,
yeah,
the stakes
totally.
are very high. You could feel the stakes.
Totally.
Yeah.
We see that he also like, he gets that ring, the old Salvatore Marone ring, right? And that ends up becoming like a big factor towards the end, right? Because there's this natural tension, right? There's a power vacuum in Gotham now that the walls of coming down. Batman, who knows where Batman is right now? But there's all these different gangsters that are trying to fight for power. You got the Carmines, you got the Falcons, right? And just that kind of using the old history of this gang versus this gang, and using the symbol of the ring and literally taking off Alberto in the beginning and using it as a ploy in the end in the car was just so smart. Like it's just like
I love that.
really, yeah, it was really smart writing. I feel like in this episode.
Yeah, especially with because it's all these characters. It feels like the link is they're all being underestimated in some ways, and he feels like someone that's always been feeling underestimated. Hangman,
That's a great
her
call out.
character is the one that's like you could tell like, oh, everyone's underestimating her power,
Hmm.
and then the young man as well.
Yeah, even back to Victor, the kid. You're right. I think that was very astute. Honestly, I think that's a great point because you're right. That's the whole thing with Penguin, right? It seems like he's always being, underutilized or like looked down upon, and so I think that, yeah, it's just a crazy, crazy story. I can't wait till Sunday. I mean, I think that's kind of mostly what I could say about that, but we just kind of see the inner workings of who the Penguin is and how he's going to come to power, but. Yeah, I don't know. One last tidbit I want to throw out there, which, this is an Easter egg that's going around all over the place. But Victor, the kid that kind of tries to steal the rims from the penguin, it's very reminiscent of, what is his name? Jason Todd's intro in the
Ooh.
comics.
Yeah.
So that's how Batman discovers his new Robin, Jason Todd. Well, in the same fashion that the Penguin is also finding his new Robin in this kid, Victor Aguilar. And yeah, there's like this weird counter dynamic, I feel like, with what we see with like everybody else and or like what we see with Batman and then the Batman's villains. I don't know if that was so hard to say, but it was. And I feel like this is using that way to kind of show a different side of who Batman could be if he didn't have the opportunities he had or didn't stick to his moral code or stick to what he felt like needed to be done to like save the city. In some ways like the Penguin is doing what he can to save the city or to be the person, the hero that he thinks the city needs.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that kind of was it for the Penguin. I don't know if we're gonna get Austin back at this point. He's at one of his 100 jobs apparently, and yeah. Either way, it was awesome to have him. Yeah, hopefully we'll get a little bit more from him in the future, and yeah, we'll hopefully get him at a point where he's able to sit down, plug
Yeah.
in his phone, and just kind of like chill out and have a
Hang out. Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, thanks to Austin. Yeah, check out A Timeless Day. We will shout him out on social media too. And yeah, keep a lookout for that. All right. So yeah, I think that kind of sums up the premiere, and we'll have the next episode coming out this Sunday. So now let's jump into Agatha episode 3 quickly on
Hey.
Transformers, and that's kind of it, and we'll wrap up tonight. But we have Agatha episode 3, and I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you were able to watch it.
I wasn't able to watch it. I did. I was a little naughty and I saw some articles about it. So I was like I was
Mm.
looking at pictures, skimming through the article, you know what I mean? Just
The
to dip my
episode's
toe
like
in.
35 minutes,
I
dude.
know.
It's very short.
I was reading it for 45 minutes. So I read an article for 45 minutes about a 35-minute episode.
That also is a call. That joke hopefully never dies either.
I
I love
know.
it.
Like I wish more fans had it so they could share in these funny little buttons with us. But
They will. If they've been sticking with us for a while, you've definitely heard
yeah.
that one before. This episode continued this show being great. It was a
Okay.
great episode. Christina is watching it with me, and
Oh,
you know, it's
nice.
like it is like me kind of begging to get her to like watch something with me
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm like,
But she's loving it.
dude, she's loving it. We flew through it, and we both, at the end of this episode, we both looked at each other like, is that it? It went by
Oh,
so
nice.
fast. We
Nice.
wanted more. It ends on a hilarious button. It ends on like a banger of the song, and it's just working and it's
Yeah.
moving. The pacing is breakneck, but not in a way that you feel overwhelmed. In a way
Yeah.
that's like it's just moving you from the next thing to the next thing. And then in this episode, we are introduced to the first trial on the Witch's Road, and it's really cool. It's really interesting how they do this, how they set it up. As they walk up, you know, we find out that you have to stay on the road, because if you veer off the road, the nature, the environment will like suck you in or probably do something else to
Oh.
you to get rid of you. Yeah. So Kitty, or Sharon, as everybody else knows her, but as Agatha calls her, Mrs. Hart, she almost dies several times throughout this
Oh
episode.
man, that must have been hilarious.
Yeah, I almost don't want to spoil this for you, but at the
Yeah,
end of it,
yeah.
it doesn't seem like she makes it either.
Oh dang.
So yeah, they get to the house, and on the front of the road basically transforms from like a night spooky forest to like a beachfront house that you would find in like Connecticut or like the Hamptons.
Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that, but like on the beach, right? And
Nice.
so they walk up to the door. There's a moon symbol on there, and the teen calls it. He's like, "Oh, this looks like the water phase." Kind of, and instantly when he said that, I was like, "Oh man, this must be kind of like this might be a hint as to what we should expect." And so
Oh,
this episode really aligns with it being a potion episode and focusing on Jennifer Kale's specialty, and then also it's the way that they're kind of almost killed through the trial. So it's
yeah.
really smart how they do it, but the character dynamics of everything is just really moving it forward, and the
Mm.
interactions are so good. We get a lot more of like the history of Allie's character, or Alice's character. We get a lot more history of Jennifer Kale's character and why she wants to walk the road, how her magic is bound, and how she wants to release it and get back her abilities. And a little bit of Lilia Calderu in there, kind of going back to when she was a child. You see a small version of her in this yellow Elizabethan dress. I don't even know if I said that right in the last
Yeah.
review I did. Butchered the hell out of that word. But it's just kind of cool, and it's moving, and the way it kind of like makes them work together to find all the ingredients to the potion. And there's a very interesting thing, because as the cauldron, they use the sink in the kitchen, and you know, for a cauldron to brew it, you need a heat source. Well,
Yeah.
there's something that gets thrown in there
Ooh.
that's a very like, I think, chef oriented thing that you'll definitely know.
Cayenne
um,
pepper. Okay.
yeah, that because that boils water all the time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, he uses a sous vide to like kind of get it going. But it's just it's so smartly written. This was just like a fun episode, and Agatha's still her, but we also get callbacks to, you know, she traded in her kid. As Jennifer Kale is talking to the teen, she tells him like, "Don't trust Agatha." Like, you know, at one point she traded in her son's life for the Book of the Damned, which we know is the Darkhold. And he's like, what? It's very, he's kind of the most enigmatic part of the show for
oh,
me, because you're like, does he know? He definitely knows more than he should, but why? And who is he? And how is he connected to all of this? So I love what they're doing there. But Jennifer is like telling him these things about her. And then we get the name drop of all name drops, something that everybody's been wanting to hear since 2021, which is, she also sacrificed her son. Some believe that he was, turned into a demon, turned into this, or was an agent of Mephisto.
Hey,
Yeah, and it was one of those moments, of course, like I freaked out, like the rest of the internet freaked out, was like, oh, we finally got like a Mephisto call out. And
nice.
I think this leads more and gives more credence in the fact that I still fully believe that we're getting Mephisto at the end of the show. I think Sacha Baron Cohen is
Yeah.
popping up at least in the finale of this show as Mephisto, and then we're going to find out what happened to Nicholas Scratch, who is Agatha's son, and yeah, and how Mephisto plays into all of this. So yeah,
Mm.
it was a great lore building episode for the
Yeah.
MCU. It was an entertaining episode just to watch it, and then it was just like fun. And it was spooky. It was creepy in this one too.
So the one thing that I want to highlight about Agatha from what I've seen is how better to get a, secondary, potentially tertiary character. How do you get somebody like that? How do you get the audience to care about this character when they barely know about him? And
Hmm.
what better than a trial, right?
Yeah.
How do I'm watching them go through this thing, regardless of whether or not I know them to be a good guy or a bad guy. I'm watching them trying to persevere and succeed, and we're walking along that journey with them. And now I have ties with it, right? I care about it. I want to see what happens. I want to see success. I want to see failure, but I'm
Hmm.
tied to it. I wish more um, shows are doing that, it creating some sort of journey. And I think a lot of the times when we do see failure, it's the expectation that you're just going to accept this character because it's a
Right.
character that exists. Um, and with Agatha, they're doing this very, very well. Because did I care about Agatha's character when I originally watched WandaVision, etc.?
Hmm.
I mean, yeah. But
Yeah, she was
now,
entertaining, but it
yeah,
wasn't
she was
like, oh, I want to
entertaining.
see more of her.
Exactly. But now, opposite. I want to see more of her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
great job.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's just cool that this story was basically pulled from a Scarlet Witch story and then just kind of transformed in a way that relates to Agatha. Because in the comics, it's actually Wanda who walks the witch's road, and Agatha is with her along with the spirit of her mother. So it's cool how they kind of have transformed that story into an Agatha story. And
Mm.
yeah, I mean, just like a very smart way to do it. And honestly, like if anybody knows about turning side characters into main characters, it's Marvel. Like nobody thought Iron Man was like a massive character. Nobody thought Captain America was. Like Hulk was probably the biggest character on the team. And so as far as like popularity and fandom, not just size, but
Oh,
like yeah, and so yeah, I think they're just doing a fantastic job. But yeah, they basically find a way to make the potion. They all drink it. The house is now getting flooded. They crawl through the oven. They pop out down this slide back on the road, and everybody seems to be fine. They're soaking wet, and Agatha goes, well, or somebody goes, I think it's Lilia Calderu, goes, at least we're all okay, or at least we're all alive. And then the teen goes, Sharon isn't. And then it ends on this hilarious button, which is like Agatha goes, who's Sharon? Like still, even though she's like floating above her, she's dead. So yeah, it's just really
hilarious.
Deborah Jo Rupp killed it in this episode. She's so kitty in it. She's so funny. There's like all these like funny little jokes, and then Agatha tries to not drink the wine, which is part of the trial. They end up forcing her to do it, and she has to chug it, and she goes, ugh, so cheap. It's just like funny, like she could have said anything, but it just, yeah, it's a hilarious show. And this episode was really spooky too. We get also Alice. It ties back into the Salem roots. She gets her tattoo in Colorado. That
Ooh,
yeah,
Colorado.
her mother made her get it when she was 13 to kind of protect. On Challenge Accepted, we were kind of talking about how each witch has their specialty, and maybe Alice's specialty is that she's a protector. She has this
Mm.
protection spell on her. She was a police officer. Their motto is to serve and protect. So maybe that's going to be her role for the team.
Ooh, that'd be sick. So, is it so good that you and Christina are gonna dress up as Agatha and company for Halloween?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Who will you be? Are you gonna be Agatha or?
Yeah, I'm gonna be Agatha.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk to Scott about it. I know
Yeah,
Scott.
okay.
We know Scott really loves Agatha as his favorite Marvel show so far, so we'll see what character he's gonna be when he
Yeah. No, honestly, which character would I want to dress up as? Like who?
uh
Honestly, Real Vidal, just in like the 2 episodes she's in, she probably had like the dopest look. I feel like,
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I can see that.
yeah, like
Um
her in that black hooded thing that was like
yeah.
kind of like open
Pretty
and stuff
sick.
was really sick. She wasn't in this episode, but I'm hoping she pops up in the next one. We know we're getting her back. We saw it in the trailers.
Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be
All right,
fucking
that's it
sick. Okay.
for Agatha episode 3.
Yep.
Definitely check it out. All right, let's move into Transformers 1. And I kind of already put out a little video on social media, just kind of my initial reactions to walking out. But this show was surprisingly, or this movie was surprisingly good. Like, really just fun. Again, my expectations for everything right now must be that they all suck, but they keep surprising me. And I should have expected more because I saw a clip of this at San Diego Comic Con. And I was like, that's
Okay.
pretty good. But it looked like it was for kids. Like it was like,
Oh,
I don't know if I'm gonna check it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
But then I saw the critic scores and all of the audience scores, and it's like through the roof. It's like a 98% as an audience score right now in Rotten Tomatoes. I know I don't necessarily love Rotten Tomatoes, but like I was impressed. So I was like, okay, I got some time. Let me go check this out. Fun movie. It is a fun movie. Talk about a ride. It feels like a roller coaster. There's like parts where it drops and speeds up like crazy and slows down and gets really deep and emotional. It's a story
Oh,
about two friends who are at the lower end of life. They're both kind of an Aladdin-esque type of character. They're miners at the bottom. They can't transform. They don't come from like higher class transformer or families, so they're just trying to make their life.
interesting.
Chris Hemsworth is the voice of the main character Pax Orion, and he's trying to just make his life more, like make it better, like leave a mark. His friend D16, who later becomes Megatron, is just trying to keep his head down and get through life. But Pax is like bringing him into all these different things. He's getting him into like all these crazy adventures, like at their job as miners. Like he's getting him kind of into more trouble. There's this race called the Iacon 500,
Oh,
and it's like an all-out kind of Mario Kart. I'm trying to think. Those N64 games that were like you're
yeah.
a jet on a racetrack and like you could
Yeah.
explode and fall off. Like it's
Yeah.
fully like that, but it's like a super cool action sequence because they can't transform, so they use these jetpacks. But then the jetpacks like get knocked off, so then they have to jump from one transformer to the next, or like grab onto them and stuff. And they get all the way to the front where they're like, it's like a Ready Player One, where it's like they shouldn't win, but then they almost do, but then they don't, and it kind of like inspires the rest of the miners down there. And halfway through, you kind of get a twist. So like the person that they look up to is the person that um seems to be like kind of betraying them and has been lying to like the rest of the city as to like
Oh,
who they are. They think he's like this warrior, like descendant of the primes, who's like been protecting them and helping them out, but really what he's been doing is taking all the resources that they mine, and they've been giving it to or he's been giving it to the enemy. So
dang
yeah,
betrayal.
that character called Sentinel Prime is played by or voiced by John Hamm. So it's just like a superstar cast all around. Like you got Scarlett Johansson, you got Brian Tyree Henry, you got Keegan Michael Key. Keegan Michael Key's character, his version of Bumblebee was like the highlight for me. He was,
Okay.
there's definitely jokes for kids where he's like he was put in the lower levels of the city, and and Icon is like below the surface, but he was put at like level 49 or
Oh
level
no.
50 or something. And um because of this, he's by himself. He's like stir crazy and he's going nuts, so he just can't stop talking. And so he's like, oh, I want to introduce you to all my friends, and it's just like scrap that he put together in different people. And he's like this is
Hilarious.
a one of them is called like Aatron, and then there's like another one. Yeah.
Oh
And then he's
shit,
like,
that's
and then
funny.
this is Steve. And so he's just like over the top, and he's like, I've been working on a new name for me. Like most people call me B, but like I'm thinking about going Badassatron. And he just like keeps saying it, and like it just, yeah. So he's just really funny in this. He kills it. And then the action's super cool. And it gives you like this really heartfelt story about like these two friends going in opposite directions in life because of
Wow.
how this realization that they've been lied to like affects them.
Oh man. Okay. Wow. I way deeper than I thought it was going to be, to be honest.
Totally. Yeah, it is. It's a lot. And right at the end, after Optimus and Megatron, after they've adopted these titles and they battle, there's this like small scene where it flashes back to them first meeting each other, kind of like in the locker room for the mines, and them just like just chit chatting and stuff. He's like, "I'll watch your back, you watch mine," kind of thing, and like where the friendship is formed, and then you still see like Megatron and the rest of the
Yeah, yeah,
Decepticons
yeah.
kind of like flying off, and
Wow.
like what's in store for them. So it's like is there's always this kind of underlying tragedy for people who know who they become and like what the
Yeah.
story is. So yeah,
Dang.
it's pretty good. It was like
That's
a
cool.
lot better than I thought. So yeah, can't
Wow.
recommend Transformer One enough, especially if you got kids.
Wow. Wow. You sold it. You sold it, and I'm buying it.
There you go. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for everything that we got tonight. That was kind of all the
Yeah.
topics. I feel like I talked way too much and kind of flew through it. I'm curious to get your takes when you're able to watch some of this
Yeah.
stuff.
I'll watch
But
the
yeah,
things. I don't think you talked too much. I think you were giving a plethora of detail that I think are going to help the viewers really salivate when they get to these shows and movies.
yeah, I need to salivate because my mouth is dry.
Ooh,
So
dirty.
yeah, I don't know. How are we on Rings of Power? Are you still planning on continuing watching that?
Yes, I'm still gonna continue to watch it. I'm gonna be taking my final and my third and final test tomorrow morning. So once that's done, I won't
For
really have to
work.
worry about studying too much, and then I can kind of
Nice.
put a little bit more time into viewing the things so that the things are viewed.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're all wishing you good luck. If you're listening to this, wish Drake good luck. By the time this comes out, though, he's probably taking the test. So,
Yeah, so we'll
yeah,
see.
retroactively put it back in the past. But,
Yeah,
time
dude.
is a circle, it's not linear. So, yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone else. Tell us what you thought about these trailers, the news. Like, are there games in here you're excited about? Casting you're excited about? Are you watching these shows? Interact with us on Threads. It's popping off over there. We've been super active and just kind of talking about all these different things in a little bit more short form detail. But that's a great place for us to hear from you guys. Obviously, connect with us on all the socials at Joystick Show, and we will see you next time. As always, thanks for checking with us.
Stick it in my face.
The Joystick Show. The Joystick Show.